Well, we have something very interesting to showcase and talk about and discuss here for this video. You may be wondering, what in the world is this? Well, from the title, you can clearly tell that it's a Mortal Kombat 3 bootleg, but the details of this are a little bit more involved. So I was contacted by a friend over at the KLOV forums, or Killer List of Video Games, or KLOV, however you want to refer to it. And he said he had something very interesting that he wanted to send me as a thank you for all the years of helping out with various things. He didn't tell me what it was, just that it was something interesting and if I'd be willing to accept the gift. I said, sure, yeah, no problem. So he sent it to me and I opened it up and I was kind of taken aback because obviously it's a Wolf Unit PCB, but I have never seen this before. It's got this expansion daughter riser board here, and there's only 3 connections. There's a connection 1, 2, 3. There is a connection right here, here, and here, and then one right here, which connects to U133, and then the 3 ROMs down here, and then a couple of extra address and data lines right there. But otherwise, it's just like an expansion board, like Mortal Kombat 2. Mortal Kombat 2, the early 4 megabit version, had the daughter board memory expansion board on top because they didn't have 8 megabit ROMs at the time. And later on down the line, when they got 8 megabits available, they were able to get rid of the expansion board, make some changes, and use the 8 megabit ROMs. But what's odd is that I am completely unaware of Midway ever doing well, by the time MK3 came out, let me go back. By the time MK3 came out, they had no problem getting a hold of 8 megabit ROMs. I mean, 8 megabit ROM problem was around 92, 93. So once 95 came around, MK3 came out, there was no reason why they would have to use 4 megabit ROMs for MK3. And that's what's going on here, is that all of these ROMs are 4 megabit ROMs. Now, the only 4 megabit ROMs originally used on MK3 are the bottom row of the ROMs. There's 4 rows of ROMs, and there's 5 rows actually. The first 4 are 8 megabit, and the 5th row is all 4 megabit. But what's interesting here is that we have what I have determined through the help of other people, that this is actually a bootleg MK3 with a completely rewritten code to use 4 megabit ROMs. So that's what all these are. So they took the first 4 rows of ROMs that are 8 megabit, including the sound ROMs. You'll see that there's 2 rows of sound ROMs. Normally there's just the 1 row here, but they've put 8 sound ROMs in here because they have converted the 4 8 megabit ROMs into 4 megabit ROMs for the audio. And then they've completely decompiled and recompiled into new code, which I'll get to how I found that out later, into 4 megabit ROMs. So the first 4 rows of 8 megabit ROMs have been changed to however many rows this is, or how many ROMs, I didn't count them, we can count them later, but they changed those first 4 rows of 8 megabit ROMs into 4 megabit ROMs, and they installed this daughter board riser thing on here. Now why? When I first got this and opened it up, I thought that this was some type of prototype or some kind of original Midway testing platform for the Wolf Unit, and part of me still kind of thinks that, but I've talked to a guy who is a MAME developer who does the developing and dumping and coordination and operation of MAME, and he took one look at these pictures and said, oh, that is a bootleg board. These ROM labels are identical to other bootlegs that have ROMs like this that they've decompiled and recompiled and stuck their own labels on this little lightning bolt with the arrow. These are notoriously known for being bootleg ROM labels. So according to the MAME dev that I was talking to, this is a bootleg of some kind. But I don't understand why they would need to completely recompile and recode the ROMs. They should be able to take the 8 megabit ROM and just put it in, look up the code and split it in half and put the first part of the code onto a chip, second part of the code onto a chip, and use 2 4 megabit ROMs. They shouldn't have to completely recompile the code. Now, how I discovered this, I'm kind of rambling here. I don't have a script. I'm not a professional. So how I discovered this was the person I got this from said that they purchased this completely working. And when they got it, the U120-0 ROM here was completely destroyed. And sure enough, it was. Let's zoom in here a bit. You can see that it's just got completely hammered and demolished. There's nothing left of it. So he wasn't able to do anything with it because it wasn't able to be played with a missing ROM like that. So that's why he offered it to me. I said, I'll absolutely take it. And I didn't realize it was like this until I got it. Well, he did mention that it wasn't working and had an issue with the U120. But if we zoom in here, you can look and see if this camera will stay still here. On this riser board, there are, since they took the U120 ROM and split it in half, there's actually two U120s. Now, the original owner of this tried to he tried to desolder what was left of the chip and install a socket and didn't do a very good job of it, admittedly, he said. And there were, I think, 5 traces that got damaged, and I had to repair those, which I'll show you a picture right now. So yeah, I had to repair all those traces. After that, well, before that, I'll show you another picture here. Before I fixed the traces, when I first got this and turned it on, I'll show you a picture here of all the ROMs that were reading red. And now after I fixed those traces, I was down to just the bad U120. So I fixed the traces and put a socket in here, and I thought maybe I could just take the original Midway U120, the 8 megabit version, and cut it in half, and take the first half of that data and burn a ROM, put it in here, and it'll work. Well, no, it didn't work at all. It actually made the image worse because it was corrupting the data and address because the code on the chip was not correct. So what I did was I pulled out the U120-1. So like I say, that they took the ROM, split it in half. So there's a U120-0 and a U120-1. And some of the other ones here are like a U121-0, U121-1. So they split the 8 megabit into 2 4s. But however, the code on these 2 chips is not, if you were to combine these or even look at them, they're not in any way, shape, or form at all close to the original Midway code. So I found that out by when I pulled out U121, because my idea was I wanted to check out the code. I also wanted to see if I could take this out and put an 8 megabit ROM in here, but I couldn't because it's different address and data lines, and they got this thing here marked wrapping pin. So that type of design is not going to work for the 8 megabit. So I took this out of there for testing purposes, and I put it in the code reader, and the code on here is not even close to what's on the factory U120 8 megabit ROM. So the code is vastly different. They rewrote all this code to make it compatible to use 4 megabit ROMs, and so somebody else couldn't come along and do what I'm doing, most likely. Now, I say that because that's the evidence that I've been presented with. So how do I go about fixing this if the code is completely different and I can't use a factory U120 and this thing is destroyed for U120-0? How in the world do I fix this? Well, this is an original factory Wolf unit board. So I took the daughter board off, and the reason I don't have it off, I'm not going to take it off because it's an absolute pain in the butt to try and line the pins up and get this back in place without damaging the sockets. So I'm going to leave this on here. That's why I'm showing you the pictures. But I'm not going to take this off of here. You'll have to trust me. But underneath here, well, here, I'll see if I can show you a picture like what this looks like without the riser board on here. Okay, so yeah, it's a regular standard Wolf unit board underneath this riser. And I realized that I did some testing and put a few original factory MK3 ROMs in the sockets originally, like if this wasn't even installed, and they all come up as good and green, however you want to refer to it. So I had an epiphany. I thought, well, okay, so if the board's able to read out of the original ROM sockets with the original code, I took an 8 megabit ROM and I flashed the actual original Midway U120 image onto it, put it in the original U120 spot underneath here, and left these 2 spots empty. After that, I fired it up and completely functional. All ROMs green, everything works, no problems. So yeah, I have successfully repaired this by fixing the traces on the damaged riser board and by installing an original 8 megabit U120 in the spot under here. You know, I think I showed a picture already, but you can see that it's This is 118, I think. It's 14, 15, 16, 17. U117. So the U117 through U114, original 5th row of ROMs is still under there. They were able to, they just left those in there because they're 4 megabit. But the first 4 rows of 8 megabit ROMs, as you can see, are gone. But down right in there, you can see there's a U120 in that spot. And that solved the issue of this one being faulty and not needing to use the 4 megabit versions at all. So I'm a little bit perplexed as to how this functions like that, but it does, and I'm not worried about it, and everything works great. So yeah, I was under the impression when I first got this that this was an official Midway prototype of some kind. But yeah, talking with the MAME dev, he's like, no, this is definitely a bootleg. But I'm a little bit puzzled as to why they would even need to do that. So if you guys have seen this before, know more information, please comment down below. Maybe it is some type of Midway official thing, I don't know, but the word on the street is from the professional who's done this more than I have, that these are completely notorious for being bootleg labels. So I don't know. I'm just going to go for now with it being a bootleg. But it is revision 1.0 and all that. So with all that being said, I'm going to actually put this on the bench here. We'll fire it up and you can see it in action. And like I say, it's just a regular 1.0. So there's revision 1.0 red chip label. Then there's actually just regular revision 1.0. That's what this is. This is just your revision 1.0, first official release, first public release, I should say. But yeah, so it's now officially fixed and working. It's in really good shape. It's a little bit bowed from the weight of the riser board. You can see how it's kind of bent. So ideally you'd want to put the feet back in here and mount it onto a flat surface, have it be flat again. But this thing is just so hard to line up these pins in the sockets. And the pins are oversized, so you can't use like regular round hole sockets or anything like that. I was going to do that, but they don't fit in the round hole sockets. But yeah, I was able to get everything in there lined up well enough, and it's such a nightmare that I'm not taking it back off unless something goes bad. So, but yeah, let's get this on the test bench, and you can see it in operation, and that's going to be about it. I mean, there's not really anything special on the main board itself. It's pretty much just all the stuff I've discussed with this thing. So just very interesting. Someone has done some repair on the audio circuit. It looks like there is a bodge wire here and a bodge wire over here. And the audio is a bit scratchy, but I think that's just an issue with the op amp. Likely just needs replaced. The TL084 Charlie November. This op amp likely just needs changed out, but the audio works fine for now. It's a little scratchy, but otherwise it works fine, so I'm not going to mess with it until it goes out completely or it really needs repaired. But anyway, yeah, like I say, nothing really special, just the fact that it's now a 4 megabit versus 8 megabit with the riser board and some type of bootleg operation. So I don't know. If you are familiar with this, let me know. Make sure you comment. But okay, yeah, let's get it on the test bench up here and fire it up and see it in action. Okay, so as you can see, here it is on the bench, ready to go, and let's fire it up. Yeah, you can hear the audio is a bit scratchy here. But when you're actually playing a game, or when the game is active, you don't hear any of that. So I'm not really going to worry too much about it right now, but yeah. It's all going to check out. So with these two bad, with the bad U120-0 and U120-1, well, this one wasn't bad. It was just the bad U120-0. Everything was green except for the U120, and I had a bunch of graphics glitches. You really couldn't play the game. But there you go, U120 good. So yeah, this is a functional Mortal Kombat 3 revision 1.0 with 4 megabit ROMs. No idea why or how, the need for that, but pretty cool piece of history here.
Outstanding, outstanding.
I can't play with one hand here on the controller, but
Sub-Zero, choose your outstanding. Round 1, fight.
yeah. So yeah, it works great. I did play for, let's go in the menu here. I did play for like 10 minutes and made sure nothing happened and all the graphics and everything was good. And as you can see, 1.0 and everything works. I did find there's no sounds inside the menu, which I don't know if that's exclusive to 1.0 or not. And if I go to the menu for the hardware, I'm sorry, for the volume, there's different sound effects for the volume test. Listen. pretty interesting. So that could be something to do with 1.0. Either way, nothing to worry about because it works. So, yep.
Outs. You will never win. Round 1. Fight.
So, pretty neat, pretty interesting. I'm going to hang on to this for a while because, you know, there's no one's going to want this. Maybe some collector would, but it doesn't really hold any value. It's not any better or worse than one that just has the regular 8 megabit ROMs. And in the future, if any of the other ones here go bad, I can just stick the regular ROM in the main board, or put all the regular ROMs in the main board and get rid of this completely, and maybe just, you know, who knows. But anyway, yeah, so that's about it. Very interesting. Wanted to share that. Thanks for watching. Make sure you comment down below if you know more about this or find something else out in the future that I'm not aware of. Otherwise, I appreciate it. Thank you very much, and stay tuned for more.